What's up, guys? I'm Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
And you're watching the Orion Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Episode 4 of the Orion Podcast. And we have one heck of a guest. Legend in the making. I mean, what else do you say, man? I mean, this guy's killing it in every which way, shape, and form. But we're going to make him wait just a minute. So, in other news, Zach, you got a bow build going on. Turkey season's coming up, man. Tell us a little bit about this bow build you got going.
Trying to get the new Hoyt together. We've got a new set of custom strings going on it. Then time to start tuning, getting everything timed up, get the new rest on, get everything dialed in and sighted in, ready for some birds. So hopefully we can catch a strutter up here in PA this spring.
I hear you, man. They were out in the fields today as I was driving home, man. The fields were absolutely full of beards. And
yeah,
they definitely thinking.
If Indiana would move up their season just a tick, it always seems like it's a little bit late.
We definitely are kind of thought. Late.
Yeah, definitely. It's a later season up here and a longer season too, but I'm hoping to actually get out up here this year and run one down if I have to.
And it seems like fishing's in full force here in Indiana. It seems like a lot of people got out this past weekend. We had that big bright full moon, man, and I tell you what, they caught him. Shout out to little Nick Flynn if he's watching.
He caught a monster bag.
We knew it was coming.
We've been watching that one for what, a decade now?
Yeah, ever since this kid was probably 7 years old, we knew he was going to take everybody's money, and he started taking everybody's money this weekend. So that's cool to see that he's out there and got his first tournament win this weekend. So I was pretty fired up about that.
Yeah,
but awesome. let's jump into this. So tonight's guest, man, what do you say? He is the fishing brand manager at Jackson Kayak, host of the upcoming show, The Road Trip Angler. Give it up for the one, the only, the bearded legend in the making, Jameson Reading.
I feel like the buildup was a little bit.
Hey, man,
there was a lot of buildup for sure.
That was a lot of buildup, man. I wanted you to anticipate it.
Yeah, I'm just glad I made it. For those of you, obviously, I think I joined right as you were introing the show. We were supposed to do a little test, so hopefully my audio and everything's working.
Sounds great.
But I might have been on the water making that one last cast for a video project, and it paid off. Struck a 20-inch smallmouth on the last cast and packed everything up and left. So I must care about you guys a lot to leave a hot bite.
You are definitely dedicated to the cause, and there's no need to ask how you're doing because, man, you catch a 20-inch smallmouth on the last cast, I think you're doing all right, man.
There were other fish before the last cast, but that was the one. That was a big one.
I would have probably called and said, "You guys are on your own. We'll catch you next week."
Yeah.
Don't think that the thought did not cross my mind.
Don't worry.
I knew it was kind of a Hail Mary. We were doing some video stuff for a company called Deck that makes the drawer system that goes in the bed of your truck. And they were doing a kayak fishing kind of 101 this afternoon. And I think we had about 45 minutes to get on the water, get a fish on camera. So mission accomplished, and I'm here.
In a big, big way, it sounds like.
Pictures?
I mean, of course.
Hold it for the people at home. Make this believable. I mean, would you look at it? Would you just look at it?
Big old football.
They are right now.
Jerry.
Is that did he just double long arm that fish? Long arm in the photo and on camera?
Well, it's kind of hard to do a selfie with a long arm. Like, I mean, look at the hand for reference.
Okay.
It's
well, you got that solar flare in the back. I'm not even sure that's you.
It might not be. It's a new filter on the Instagram. You can just add fish to yourself. Got
it.
Let's jump.
I need to find that for elk.
Yeah. Well, speaking of elk, we can trade.
Let's jump into this thing, boys. So, Jameson, obviously I've known you for a while. We're coworkers. We're working every day and doing different things with the Jackson Kayak team and the marketing. But I want to take everybody back and let everybody get to know a little bit of the early version of Jameson Reading. Tell us, how did your passion for the outdoors begin? Where'd you get started, and how did you find yourself fishing?
Yeah, so I mean, to go way back, I grew up kind of right where I live now in North Carolina, in the foothills, northwestern part of the state. Very rural area, big town of Rhonda, North Carolina. You'll have to Google that to find it. But earlier today, I think I was talking to someone and they couldn't even find the town. So they were like, what's the next one closest to you for weather? But yeah, so I grew up on a farm. My dad owns a fence company. So working outside my whole life, whether it was getting hay bales out of the field for $1 a hay bale with the big round bales, driving a tractor when I was like 13, 14, just to have some spending money, or, raising some calves through high school to have some spending money to go to prom and whatnot. So always been outside, oriented and loved to hunt and loved to fish. Now, growing up, I wouldn't say that I knew what I was doing at all. A lot of farm pond bobber fishing and, hunting with, a rifle, a tree stand locally here for whitetail. But yeah, just always, love the outdoors. But I would say where the fishing thing really came in is I moved to Florida to go to college, and was kind of more into hunting really than fishing at the time. But when I got to Florida, like, I was looking at like, where can I go hunt? There's, some game lands, but it wasn't really ideal. And it was a draw to even get access to the game lands. Most people that live down there in Pensacola, where I was at, had, in Alabama, they would like join a hunting club or whatever. So they had access to land, and I'm in college living off pizza and, working at the same time. So joining a hunting club was not going to happen. But the cool thing about Pensacola is there's a lot of grass flats. So I kind of learned to go fish off the beach or do some wade fishing. I actually met my wife down there, and her dad had a small boat, but he also wade fished for speckled trout and that kind of thing. So it really kind of gave me that what I was looking for, what I was missing with the hunting. I was able to, get that getaway to get out on the flats or whatever, and started really trying to learn more and more about it. Had a boat down there, and then eventually moved back to North Carolina to help my dad's business, fence company, and got rid of the boat. But there's a lot of rivers here, and some of my buddies I reconnected with, and we started talking about either accessing the rivers with a canoe or a kayak, like what would be, ideal, because going and wading a small section like limits you so much because there's just not access kind of between those sections, right? So we all ended up buying kayaks the same day, and that just ignited a whole nother thing that I didn't know was there. And so that was I think 13, 14 years ago, something like that. somewhere in there. And not long after that, I ended up getting the Jackson Coosa when it came out, which kind of led me to being a big fan of Jackson, and ended up getting the Cuda, which was the next boat they came out with. And that way I had kind of a river boat and a flat water boat. And again, just kind of ate up with it. So really just started doing some redfish tournaments so I could get back to the saltwater and trying to figure out what the industry needed so I could like find a place for myself. And I met Drew Gregory at the time, and actually Brooks and Drew at the same time. Got put on the team and started making videos and stuff. To just went from there and led to where I'm at today. Really fast forward.
So let's kind of go back to that time. I think for me and Zach, as well as yourself, I mean, it's a special time of kind of when kayak fishing took off. I mean, kind of describe how that was in the early days when, you know, the Coosa is just launched and, you know, it's the first boat that's out there. I mean, everybody's fishing out of whatever's available at the time. Kind of flashback. I mean, what was...
Yeah, it's been really cool. And I would say there's definitely some names that if you're in kayak fishing, you probably heard, you know, Drew, Gregory, I mentioned already, Chad Hoover, Jim Salmons. Like these are some people that are the real OGs. And there were people fishing from kayaks for, you know, hundreds of years, right? But until I would say the Coosa, maybe a couple of the boats before that, there were a few boats, even Ocean Kayak had a few that were dedicated for fishing, or at least they were starting to add rod holders. And I think Wilderness was the first one to kind of go to a track system, and they had a few accessories, very limited accessories that you could use with that. The Coosa was really cool because I was in a Wilderness boat, and it was just not that they don't make a good boat, but it wasn't the right boat. I was in a Commander, very open cockpit style boat, and I was doing a lot of river fishing. So I was like loading the boat with water in rapids, and my buddies and I would have to like drag it up and dump the water out. And so I'm like scouring the web trying to find the best kayak for river fishing. And I think that's what led me to the Coosa, was like, here's a whitewater company that is making a go at a fishing kayak with a guy that's known for river fishing, was Drew at the time. And so it was just a lot there that really, and the fact that, you know, some of the things that were kind of industry first. I mean, you had somewhat high-low seating with the Commander, but it was like either two positions. You know, you had a molded in seat up high and then a seat down low. But to have an external frame type seat that you could take in and out of the boat and go high and low, the kayak was built to stand in. And then just all the staging for rods and just things that made sense from an angler standpoint. And I think Jackson was very much on the forefront of really thinking about it, not just from we can add rod holders, but let's make it standable. Let's make it to where it really makes sense, like where you stage your rods and how you would fish, you know, out of a kayak and make it simpler and easier. And then to see like how big kayak fishing. I remember walking around the ICAST some of the first years that I went, and, you know, you were the kayak guy. So like getting sponsors or whatever, like you just kind of got pushed aside. And there were some early adapters like Z-Man, for example. They've always worked with kayak fishermen. Power Pole came out with the micro power pole like years ago. So there's definitely been brands that were early adapters to it, but now you walk a show like ICAST and you see kayaking like in every booth, and it's being marketed to. So that's just a testament of how big the sport has gotten and how many eyes are now on the sport. And then people like Chad, just I think he kind of led the way with rigging out kayaks with electronics and motors and fishing, you know, bass tournaments and stuff like that. And then you got Jim, who's just going after like huge fish that you would never dream of. Like I can do that in a kayak. Like I can launch off the beach and go do that. And I think me and my buddies used to watch his show and DVR it back in the day when it, you know, first came out. And so to see all that like just come together, and now to see there's so many great offerings from so many companies when it comes to kayaking, and as an angler, it's just like almost overwhelming, like how many choices there are and how to like dial it in. But it's great because you have that selection. You can really find the right boat for you and for the conditions that you're fishing.
Absolutely. And I can remember being at ICAST, you bringing that up, and it was 2012, and walking the aisles, and there was pretty much zero kayak presence in 2012, and to be what it is now, where new boats are getting launched and different things like that, it really shows the evolution and how far the sports came.
Yeah, for sure. And it's continues to grow. So it's sometimes I look at some of the spots that I used to access with the kayak and no one else would be there. And then you show up and there's 5 kayaks and you're like, did we do this? Were we a part of this?
It's such a lower barrier to entry for folks to jump in a kayak versus a big bass boat, money wise, when you start talking just initial costs and gas and maintenance and all that. Once you get a plastic boat, for lack of a better term, I mean, there's, it's up to you. Make it what you want to make it.
It really is. And I think what really was the light bulb for me was at the time I wanted the kayak because I couldn't afford the boat. So I had like a center console down in Florida. It was an older one my buddy and I kind of shared. When I moved to North Carolina, like we were building a house, like things were happening, and I just didn't have the money to get a boat. And I thought I wanted a bass boat at the time, so I would look at boats all the time. Well, then I got the kayak and this light bulb went off. Like this boat can do anything. Like I can go offshore and chase big fish. I can go inshore and chase redfish. I can go down the river and catch smallmouth. There is not a boat on the planet, like a big power boat, that can have that much versatility. Like I'm not taking a bass boat and launching off the beach and chasing, snapper and kingfish and whatever, but you can do that in a kayak. And so it just really opened the door to me. And I think some people get really hyper focused or dedicated to one species. And I think that's awesome, but I've never been that way. I really want to just experience it all. And I have my favorites, but the kayak definitely opens up the field where you can just throw in the bed of your truck, drive anywhere in the country or to Canada or Mexico, wherever, and go catch fish out of it.
So when you look back at the journey and you're going through it in your mind, we're starting in these humble beginnings. And now, fast forward, you are the fishing brand manager at Jackson Kayak. I mean, when you look at this evolution, I mean, what's that like? I mean, do you just have to pinch yourself sometimes? And think,
yeah, you do. I mean, it's definitely a blessing, dude. I can't to be where I'm at, to get to work with people like yourself every day. I know our marketing group is family to all of us, and we work hard, we play hard. But Jackson, to me, and has always been a really cool brand to be a part of because it's enthusiast. Whether it's Emily and her brother or it's us on the fishing side, we're all like users of the products that we make. And, we're always trying to make the products that we want to use, so we're really working hard to be a part of the industry and not just make a profit off the industry, if that makes sense. So I knew early on that Jackson was definitely the company that I wanted to kind of work with. I don't know that I ever thought it would lead to where I'm at as the brand manager. So definitely blessed there. And I definitely never thought I would have a television show with the same production company that produced Jim Salmon's show that I used to DVR and have my buddies come over and watch. So it's really cool, really blessed. Might have got lucky. Also, I don't think anyone really knows who I am yet or whatever. They're still trying to fit
that's why you're on this huge podcast we've got here. There's 3 people. There's 3 people watching. My mom, Zach's mom, and your mom.
I promise you, my mom's in bed already. No, it's no. What I'm saying is I feel like sometimes I've got everyone tricked into thinking I know what I'm doing just because if you say something with confidence, maybe people just believe it, kind of thing. But yeah.
No, man. I mean, I've been around you at the factory and when we was there in October and seeing you work on different things. The launch of the Kilroy was one of the projects that we were working on while we was there, and to see you being hands-on, I think that speaks volumes to your work ethic and your hands-on path that you've taken with the products at Jackson Kayak. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that, appreciate that down the road and just it's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
very good thing, man. We're all proud of that for sure.
It takes a team for sure, and I think it's really cool that I feel like we're utilizing our team much better than we have in the past, and listening to them, and I think it's going to make for some really cool stuff, man, for the future. So
Yeah.
could.
Well, when you got a group of folks like that live the lifestyle and are using the products that many days out of the year. There's a backpack company I work with a little bit that, I mean, the owner of that company's in the field over 200 days a year, either hunting, camping, fishing in the mountains or something. And that, it's very relatable, the kayak to the packs, and it shows in the product development and how far it's came and how in a short amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess there's hiccups when you're all enthusiasts and you all would rather be on the water than some other places. But yeah, you find a balance and you try to make it work, and you try to build a product that you can be proud of. And I think we're doing that. So.
Yeah, and just so Zach knows, we do have to put in for our sick days now. That was a new thing for 2022. Put that in a sauna.
Sick days.
Put that in the sauna. So let's talk about the new show. You got a show coming up, the Road Trip Angler. Let's tell people a little bit about what the vision for that show is.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the project. First of all, like I said, it's the production company that produced Jim's show, Chad's show. So if you're going to pick one to work with, it's like that's the one, right? Like they know it, they get it, they're kayakers. So really excited for that opportunity. But what I think I'm most excited about is doing what I've been doing for the past decade of loading the kayak in the truck or on top of a Subaru, whatever vehicle I was in at the time, and traveling around the country. You start to realize there's this really awesome community around kayak fishing that I don't know if it exists. Like, I know it doesn't exist in the boating world the way it does. Maybe it does in the fly fishing community, but with kayakers, it's like such an open door. People you've never met, or maybe you've met online or whatever, like, hey man, you can come fish with me, stay with me anytime or whatever. And you start to like really understand that this is different, and back in the day, there was these events called the Kayak Fishing Boondoggle, which I met Chris Funk at for the first time, and a few others that are here. And, going and seeing those communities was always just such a cool thing for me. And then fast forward, Brooks and I kind of started with Jackson, what we call JK Media House, which is where we were like, okay, here's the idea. Let's take cameras, go to these communities where we have team members on Jackson and dealers, and film in their region, get content for the dealer, content for Jackson, content for the team members, and just showcase their area where they fish and their dealer. And we did that for a few years. And it was really cool experience to kind of get to share, not just with a dealer, like what they do from a sales standpoint, but like how they're involved with their local community and what their fisheries look like, and understanding, and getting to meet our great team that we have scattered across the country and even worldwide for that matter. We've got a lot of great guys in Europe and stuff. So the idea for the show is kind of that. It's to not really so much about like me or what I'm doing, because a lot of these areas I've never been to and I've never fished. But it's more about showcasing who that local legend or that legend in that area, who that angler is, their fishery, the shop that supports that community, the Jackson dealer or whatever that's in that region, and then just showcasing the region itself. So really just kind of broadening the reach of what we were doing with JK Media House through having a show, and we'll also do a lot of digital assets from it too. But that's the idea, is just to load up the truck, go somewhere on a road trip, and not really have like a solid plan, but just hook up with people in their region and the local shop, and get out on the water and experience hopefully the food and the fishing and the people. So
now Chris Funk's hollering at us. He's saying boondoggle.
Yeah, back in the day, you would just hear cries of boondoggle at the end. These events would have 300 to 400 people at them, some of them. And so someone would yell boondoggle really loud, and then next thing you know, it would just start this echo effect of people yelling all across the campground.
And the boondoggles, I mean, those were Canoe Kentucky still has one, and it's an epic
Yeah,
time.
they're still actually going on. I think it's been a while just since I've been to one, but it's really cool to see a lot of the same people are still putting them on. So,
oh yeah, for sure. So, what are some of the destinations where the show is going to be headed?
yeah. So this year we started filming in Texas. So Corpus Christi, we filmed with Roy's Bait and Tackle down there, which if you're ever in Corpus Christi, that place is unreal. I don't know if I've been in a tackle shop that has more tackle than what this place has. I mean, it was almost overwhelming. This is when like you can't hardly get reels anywhere because of supply chain. And I really like throwing a certain reel. It's the Shimano Chronarchs. They make a saltwater rated version of it, and it's hard to find because it's the saltwater version. And they had one in the case, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this reel. And he's like, oh yeah, we've got how many? We got a stack of them. I'm like, no one has a stack of them. The fact you have one is impressive. I want as many as I can afford. So I'm like, but yeah, very impressive area. Grass flats. I mean, just clear water grass flats for miles. And so we did a lot of speckled trout fishing and some red fishing. And yeah, just a really cool place. That was a lot of fun. Got to hang out with Dustin Nichols and a couple other people down there, Richard Penny on our team. And so next, let's see, 2 weeks from now is the second shoot for the season. And we're heading out to Oklahoma, which I'm excited about because number one, we're going to be bronzeback fishing, which is one of my favorite species to target. And it's an area that I've never fished before. So that's two things that I'm really excited about. I've never fished in Oklahoma, and I love chasing smallmouth. So we're going to actually kind of fish two different regions of the state and pack that into like 5 days. So it's going to be run and gun, really moving quickly. But I think it'd be really cool just to see the transition from Cypress. I think it's what I'm hearing anyway, is like we're going to be kind of in the lowland and then heading up to the Wichita Mountains. So we'll really get to see a diverse fishery there, hanging out with OKC, which is one of our biggest dealers in the country. And then Delaware Paddle Sports, another place I've never fished before. They have striper, and so we'll be doing some saltwater fishing and also probably some freshwater bass fishing as well. So pumped about that region as well. And then coming back to Tennessee to fish with Caney Fork. And all these are some of our biggest dealers, and I'm really excited to work with them all. Caney Fork I've worked with quite a bit in the past just because they're local there, closer to the factory. So I'm excited about that one because I actually have some knowledge of the rivers around there, and I know what kind of smallmouth live in those rivers. So that one I feel like is more of a, I don't want to say home run because I don't want to jinx myself, but I feel more confident on waters I've been to before. So it's cool to revisit some spots, but also have like new areas that I've never gotten to experience.
Will Matt Cunningham be your tour guide for the Tennessee version?
Yes, I have already asked Matt to be involved, and also Charlie, who is also on the team and works at the factory as well. Charlie is the cold water river striper king around there, and then you got Matt, who's just smallmouth.
Matt's going to make you drag your boat.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. Like that's
you may be dragging down the side of some Tennessee mountain.
That's all right. I got the Kilroy, man. I'll throw that thing on my shoulder and hike in if I have to.
So one thing that we want to remind you guys out there listening and watching, however you're taking in the podcast tonight, if you're watching on live, keep in mind here in just a little bit, we are going to have 5 questions. 5 questions with Jameson Redding coming from you guys, the audience. You can ask him anything and everything. We will read it. We promise. So keep those questions in the hopper. You'll know when it's time. You'll know when it's time for 5 questions. Also,
do I get to like call a friend, or is there any kind of lifelines?
Only if it works.
I can do that.
So we also got to remind everybody, the Orion podcast tonight is powered by Jackson Kayak. Visit jacksonkayak.com for all your Jackson Kayak and Orion needs. Gotta get that in there. You gotta pay the bills.
House.
I'm just liking,
housekeeping.
I'm liking podcast Chad.
Podcast chat.
Podcast Chad's a different Chad for sure.
Yeah, I like him though. It's good.
We practice. We practice.
It shows.
We got sweet tea going, and it just the good vibes flow, man.
I'm hydrating right now, but I really thought about switching to the brown water. But
The brown water.
stick to the clear stuff right now.
I got a question for 5 questions. We'll save that for later. It's a good one. I've been thinking about it all week, and I've just held on to it all week long. I'm ready for it. So let's get back into the show. So tell us about when the Road Trip Angler is going to start airing, where people are going to be able to kind of find it as things come out.
Yeah, so right now we're looking at a mid to late summer airing. It will air on what used to be called Fox Sports Networks. So it's now Bally Sports Networks. It's Bally. They basically bought the naming rights off of Fox. So they're regional networks that are nationwide. So like in your region, it might have for example, Florida's, I think Sun Sports or Florida Sun or something like that, but it's a Bali network. Or here it's Bali Southeast, but it's basically the channel that you would watch ball games and whatnot on. So that'll be really cool to air nationwide right after a Braves game or whatever. So
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and then you also will be hosting a lot of the content on Jackson's YouTube channel, so Jackson Kayak YouTube channel, and we'll host obviously content on my own Instagram and Jackson's social channels and whatnot. But yeah, the main airings will be on Bali Sports Networks. So
right,
cool.
Which I think too will be streaming, and I can update this when we get a little closer, but we'll have some streaming platforms that we're working with. We're working with Amazon Prime a little bit, My Outdoor TV, and a couple others that some of their other content is on. So as the time gets closer, I'll find out exactly where this will all live. But we'll do a digital episode of each one to go on YouTube. So
yeah, that'll be great.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about the title of the show, Road Trip Angler, and that kind of really needs no preface. I mean, so what are some of your craziest stories from the open road?
Man,
if you had to know,
ones I can actually share, or
we asked Jason Cassidy the same question because he's traveling around fishing the BOS tour this year, and we gotta ask you, man. What is
Brooks and I actually hung out a little bit this past weekend, and I traveled probably more with that man than any other person over the last 10 years of my life. And we were trying to remember things, but it just all start to run together. We're like, well, wait, was that trip, or was it another trip? I don't remember. But there's been so many crazy stories. And we were actually laughing at that because it's most people have one story or two stories, and it's ours just start to run together because we spent so much time out on the road. So I don't really know, man, it's it's hard to dial it in. I can say a few ones that really stand out. One, we were up in Canada, and with James, our fearless leader in the marketing department at Jackson.
Oh yeah.
And Brooks and I have been camping with him on the Ottawa River. And when we got off the river, I packed, and I, for whatever reason, decided to bring every fishing rod that I owned at the time in my rod box that was on my trailer. Well, when we left, I had left it open for Brooks to put his rods in. He told me he wasn't going to put them in there, and I made a mental note to go back, shut the rod locker, and lock it. Well, I didn't do that. We drove 4 hours, got to James's house. It was Canada Day. I don't remember if it was that night or the next day, but we were celebrating it that night. And we were going to go pick up some things at the store. I walked by my truck, noticed the rod locker open, and every fishing rod I owned was gone. And so we drove back 4 hours the next day, and we found one rod that was ran over. So yeah, that was pretty upsetting, heartbreaking, but I'll never forget it. I have literally, in my motor home, I have parked so long waiting on drawbridges in Louisiana that we were able to actually like pretty much have a party in the motorhome, spin some vinyl, have people that were parked behind us join us in the motorhome while we waited on the barges to go through for hours. You should ask Brooks sometime about, trying to get a loaded gun onto an airplane. That was pretty irritating.
We should have just had Brooks
that
on
doesn't work. That doesn't work. I tried it with just ammunition here a while back, and it does not work.
So I'll share that one. This one has a lot of stuff to it. But we were headed to Costa Rica to kind of scout a filming opportunity that we thought we could make happen. We had this idea for a video called Rainbows and Roosters. So we were going to go chase rainbow bass, which are in the same family as peacock bass and live in some of the whitewater type rivers in Costa Rica. And then we thought, if we could do that and then go catch a rooster fish, that it would be a really cool story to tell. And I mean, the name's kind of catchy, right? And so we were traveling there. We go to the airport super late. We get in, we go to this red eye early morning flight, super early morning flight. And we make it to the gate. We got our luggage checked. We got our bags, everything. Volcano erupts in Costa Rica. So there's all this ash in the air. They can't land the plane. So they cancel the flight. So we leave the airport, and it's like, we made it to the airport. So I won't lie. We had a couple tall boys as we were sitting there waiting on the flight, and then they can't, because we're excited. We're going to Costa Rica, right? And they cancel the flight. So we finish our beers. We go down. We rebook. Hopefully the ash clears. We get to fly out the next day. And I do one of these Priceline deals where you just like end up with whatever you get kind of thing. And we end up with the Ritz-Carlton for like $80 a night. It was stupid, like in Fort Lauderdale. So we pull up and there's like Ferraris and stuff, right? And we're in like a lifted white Chevy panel van. Like, I'm not lying. On the way there, by the way, we see a rap video being filmed on the basketball courts on the beach. So we stop and we actually got ran off because we were filming the people filming the rap video, like from the panel van. So it was a little weird. Anyway, we go out that night. We meet all these like interesting people, end up hanging out with the bar staff at another bar, and just like our group grew, right? Like we had people come up from Miami that we knew. We had like 15 people. Eric Estrada came up, the artist, not the guy from Chips. So fast forward, next morning, cool night, right? We made the best of it. We go to head to the airport, and we all make it through security. Flights on time, everything's ready to go. Brooks gets stopped. Keep in mind, he's got the same bag, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story. Hopefully he's not listening. But he's got the same bag that he had the day before that we made it all the way to the gate with. They stop him. They're like, "Sir, is there something you know about in your bag?" And he's like, I don't know. It's the same stuff. So immediately we're thinking drone batteries or something weird, Sheriff's deputies are rolling up, right? Like, so it just escalated from, this is no longer a TSA thing. This is we got to get law enforcement involved. I'm like, what is in your bag, dude? They reach in and like, is anything in here that can harm? He's like, I don't know. They pull out he's got a concealed carry. So they pull out his pistol, and he just drove from Charlotte, to make this flight. So he just forgot that he had stashed his pistol, in his bag. And they looked at him and they go, "Is this loaded?" And he goes, "Well, it wouldn't be any good if it wasn't." I'm like, I don't know.
Fair point.
Yeah. And so, but he had to pay a fine. But it could have been a lot worse. Luckily, he had his concealed carry, farthest reciprocal to, I think I said that word right, to North Carolina. Right. And he ended up catching up with us at the hostel that we stayed in the next day. So, yeah, that was the start of the adventure, right? So, but yeah, it was quite the interesting few moments of like, okay, is this where Brooks goes to jail for the rest of his life?
Yeah.
But luckily, because he had a concealed carry, it definitely de-escalated the situation quite a bit, and it no longer was like as bad as it could have been. I'm just glad that he didn't make it to Costa Rica with the gun, because he might still be in Costa Rica.
That's what I was just thinking. If he got all the way through the day before, what happens coming back?
Yeah, so that's probably one of the craziest travel stories that we have. And like I said, hopefully he's not going to get too mad that I just put that out for the world. But
well, the ironic part
it happens.
The ironic part of this whole conversation, this whole story, when we asked Jason Cassidy in episode 1 of this podcast, his story too involved a rap video being filmed at a gas station. So apparently Zach and I are hanging out in the wrong places because we've not been in a rap video yet.
This guy was full on. There were several women around him playing basketball while he had his shirt off and twisted around his head and lip sync. It was
like a helicopter.
Well, yes, it felt very Petey Pablo for sure.
Okay.
You could have been part of the next big hit, and you just don't even know who he really was.
Don't you guys need some bearded people in your shoot? Some really white bearded people that don't know how to rap or sing, for that matter, or dance or anything.
Oh man.
Oh. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit closer tonight. We're going to get deep with Jameson Reading.
Do you just have like all these sounds on a board that you're playing?
Oh, we do. Leon Phelps, the ladies man.
The ladies man.
Lean on a little closer to your microphone. Talk a little bit deeper. It's time for 5 questions with Jameson Redding. Let's go to the audience now. See who's got something for us. I'm going to start with my question, because I've been waiting all week. If you were stranded on a desert island and you had to choose between a 30-pack of Old Milwaukee and 1 Miller Lite, which would you choose?
30-pack of Old Milwaukee. That's not even a real question.
I wanted to know. I don't know why, but it's just would you choose the Old Milwaukee's best, Old Milwaukee?
I mean, if it was like 20 Millers to 30, yeah, maybe the Miller. But like 1 Miller to 30, like, let's face it, after like 15 Milwaukees, I'm not going to care what the other 15 taste.
I would probably ration the one.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think Miller Lite is not a good beer, but it literally says on the can it's a fine Pilsner. So I don't really understand where they're getting their information from.
I mean, the marketing's right there.
It's written on there.
It's beautiful branding.
I don't understand. It's a fine Pilsner. It says it.
Coming to you live tonight from Facebook, Miss Jean Wilson.
Oh, here we go.
How many musical instruments does Jameson actually play?
None. 0. I can't play any. I can't even really do that good a job playing the radio. So, like, it's not 0 musical talent.
Oh, well, there's a whole but I can't.
Yeah, I'm really good at letting other people play musical instruments and then imitating them. That's what I did with that.
Coming to you again tonight from Facebook. Chris Funk would like me to ask you about the swamp.
Well, the swamp is Chris Funk's favorite place on earth, I'm pretty convinced. He's talking about specifically the Okefenokee Swamp, which is loaded with this species of fish known as the bowfin. And it's very tannic water, full of big lizards that look like they want to eat you. But it's actually a really cool place. The wildlife there is unbelievable, and Chris loves it like a fat kid loves cake, I guess would be a good way to say it. Like, he's enamored with the swamp. And literally he was texting me pictures just a little while ago of all the baits that he was ready to take back to the swamp. So.
Right on. Also, coming to you tonight from Facebook, we're going back to our man Chris Funk out there hollering at his people. What's more interesting, beef jerky in Panama? And he pops up and says, I am that fat kid. I mean, how can I concentrate, Chris, when you're doing all that stuff to me?
Yeah, he's actually not a fat kid anymore. He's lost a lot of weight.
He's not a fat kid anymore.
Not that he ever was. I didn't. That's not what I meant.
No, full disclaimer. We at the Orion Podcast would like to put out a full disclaimer. We are not judgmental. No. Sorry, James. Total train of thought gone. How many was that? How many questions we up to?
I think that was
I don't know. Was
3 counting yours.
3 came out. Mine was the most important one, actually.
Yeah, that was. I had to think about it for a second, for sure.
Well, it's a deep, deep, deep question. Let's scroll back up here through the comments. This music. This music. If you could only go to one place ever. This is coming to you from YouTube user We Don't Know. If you could only ever fish one place again, where would that be?
That's a tough one. One place ever.
Lay it on us. Talk real deep.
If I was going to fish one place, I think I would probably pick Louisiana. Final answer.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay. We have
Specifically redfish in Louisiana. That's what I would do.
That's
Last
something
question.
I'd love to do.
yes, most definitely. We'll talk about that later. Last question. Question number 5.
Why are you whispering?
I don't know. Live from Facebook. Josh Evans, half question, half wager. Who's catching the biggest smallmouth on Thursday? And care to wager a hat on that bet?
All right. Well, first of all, it's unfair because I'm going to be behind the camera filming Josh Evans and hopefully Russell Johnson. So I guess the wager's really between them. I mean, if I have to put the camera down and whoop them both, I will do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say Russell is going to probably catch the biggest one, only because I'm going to be filming.
I tell you what. I'm going to get into this. I've got that hat. It's hanging right there on my rack. I'm going with Russell too. So
Sorry,
Josh.
I
Josh,
don't know why I
if you
feel
can-
like Russell will stroke one.
Yeah. If Josh can beat Russell and catch the biggest smallmouth tomorrow, and I can get photo evidence dropped to me via message,
Yeah.
Josh, I will mail you my Jackson Kayak hat that I have not even worn yet because I'm rocking the visor. That's Jameson loves it.
I feel like you lost part of your hat is the problem. Like it was like a weed eater accident, and you just haven't found the rest of it.
Going back to 2012. Going back to 2012, man. I'm living my childhood. I'm getting old. I'm having a midlife crisis.
Josh is I don't know if he's taking this too well that we both bet on Russell.
Yeah, I don't think he was a fan of that.
We made the wager better. We made a wager better.
Here to ship it, my friend. I mean, here's the thing. I'll film all day, and then the last 10 minutes probably still whoop them. But I don't want to throw it out there this early in the game. So
JT Hickman wants to know the name of this song that we are jamming out to tonight. Courtesy of StreamYard, JT, this is it's called Feeding the Ducks. That has been 5
you don't
questions.
have any audio things to play with at your place, Zach?
I don't have the fun red button, but he can keep that button.
If he still lived at home and didn't live in Pennsylvania, he would literally come over and take it away from you. You have no idea.
Yeah, I probably would have smashed it already.
Guaranteed. You know, talking about Brooks getting in trouble takes me back to the time that I actually about shot. We was filming, and just to tell you this stupid story, we're filming and we're shooting archery, and we've got the back tension releases because we're shooting target archery. So everything's just click boom. There's no trigger. It's all about, you know, pulling through and
Rotation.
all that.
Yeah.
Rotation. And Zach has this. He's got his brand new Nikon camera, and he's like, I'm gonna go down to this end of the range. You just get back there, and I'm gonna film this. It's gonna be all. We're gonna get some pictures.
Well,
film it.
what I was doing was getting the camera in place so that I could remove myself from between him and the target.
He wasn't fast enough.
No.
Let's just say I got real tired. Things started shaking after holding for so long, and it was like, poof. I mean,
Inches.
Inches. I mean, it could. Yeah. we've done some dumb stuff, like losing
Yeah.
our boats in the river.
It tends to happen. Dumb stuff tends to happen.
You remember the time we were on our Memorial Day trip and we were almost to the lake and we're heading down into the housing development, we'll call it. And the dude was in the middle of the road that we didn't see because of the glare on the windshield.
And
then when I looked in the rearview mirror and he was pointing a gun at the back glass of the
back
truck.
window because I couldn't see him.
He was walking down the middle of the road
with a
He's
gun.
my Brooks.
Yeah.
That was
my
Brooks.
Brooks.
That was Brooks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brooks.
Sorry, Brooks. Let's seriously talk about some of the places you've been, as we jump back into this. I know we asked the question if you could only fish one spot, but you've been a lot of places. You've been Panama, you've been Pac, you've been to the Amazon. You've been all over.
Had been to the Amazon.
You have not been to the Amazon.
That would be on the bucket list right there for sure.
So what is the number one bucket list trip that you have yet to check off?
I think it probably would be. I would love to go chase a golden Dorado in a river somewhere in like Argentina or like South America. So yeah, that's the one I'd like to really go check off. I just think it's a crazy looking fish. It lives in super shallow rivers and it eats giant flies, and I just think I need a picture with one. That's just all there is to it. And I think just something about it being wild in the jungle and hard to get to. If there was a second, it would probably be a really close second, and it would be giant trevallies somewhere, anywhere, some crazy reef out in the middle of nowhere with giant trevallies on it, GTs.
And pirates.
Yeah, that'd be fine. There are pirates, yeah, so you got to watch out for that. But yeah,
that's exactly what I thought.
But those are the two, yeah, for sure. High up bucket list species and areas that I would like to go. And it's one of those things too. Like I feel like if I could just go accomplish it once, that I wouldn't. Like I've never really experienced a fish where I'm like, all right, I gotta keep going back to that same thing, except for redfish and smallmouth bass. Those are the two that I like cannot give up on ever. But like if I could just check that off and have a cool adventure, like I think I could move on with my life.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. So you're kind of a big deal now. You've made it. You're gonna have TV fame. It's not there yet, but we're working on it. So what advice as a future bearded legend that you are, can you give to the youth of America? That young picture
the whole youth of America. Huh? Yeah.
Picture 12-year-old Jameson Redding is out there. He's watching this podcast right now. He's going, man, I've seen that guy's picture. I want to be that guy. What do you tell that kid?
They should have better heroes. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you going Charles Barkley on us?
Yeah, well, you should find someone else to be. No, I think it's well, obviously, you want to say it's cliche a little bit to say anything's possible, but I mean, I don't think I ever thought that I would be, working at the level at Jackson that I am, or have a show or whatever. So I think, if you're really passionate about something, and I'm not saying it's easy because there's been a lot of times where my wife had to float us working as a nurse, or we just didn't have money, or we had a lot of credit card debt, to get here. So like what I'm saying is if you're really passionate about something, no matter what it is, figure out a way to just keep trying to make that work. And the reason I say that is like I see so many people work their whole lives to reach a point where they can stop working and enjoy what they're really passionate about. And so then they have like not a whole lot of years left to enjoy that. And they've spent most of their life, a very large majority of their life, just trying to get to that point where they could and do some things that they enjoy. So for me, it's definitely not, chasing money or whatever. Like, just accept that I get to go do something that I'm really passionate about, work with people that are also as passionate about the same thing that I am on a daily basis. And so there's a trade-off, right? So like, I hope that I can do this for the rest of my life. But I get to do it right now. And I think that's really key. So, yeah, I mean, just fine. If you're really passionate about something, just, go after it and go after it hard, and it'll work.
There you go. There you have it. There you have it. So we need to build your fan base up.
Am I unbuttoning the button?
That's a different broadcast.
That-
Hold
Sorry,
on.
I thought we were after
Put
the
your
dark.
feet back up. I need those pictures for later. Tell the good people out there that's watching tonight and listening here in the future when we upload this thing, where they can find out more about the Road Trip Angler and Jameson Reading.
Yeah, so I would say definitely follow all of Jackson's social channels.
Social.
Yeah, I don't know why that was hard to say.
Sometimes.
Because as we get closer to launch, that's all going to be, put out there. All the content will be coming through there. Also, Heliconia Press. Heliconia, I believe, is the way it is on Instagram. But there's also going to be a landing page that will have links to all the content on Jackson's site as well. And then myself at Jameson Redding on Instagram and Jameson Reading Fishing on Facebook. So that's where you'll see the content as we start releasing it.
Yeah, and I think that's important to mention too. When you head over to jacksonkayak.com, be sure to subscribe. We've got a newsletter that goes out periodically, and it'll have updates for everything that we've got going on, whether it's Whitewater or Jameson's new show, or even Nick and Emily's new show. You guys will see some updates on there, and it'll tell you about when those items are going to be airing. So be sure, jacksonkayak.com, at Jameson Reading on the gram. Smash that thumbs up button. Like him a whole lot. Well, man, we are going to let you go dark for a few minutes here while we close this thing out and let you grab something to eat. I know you've just ran in the house, so hang out for just a second. We're going to close this thing out, and we'll be right with you, my
I
friend.
appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for leaving the Smallies just to come chat. So
Yes,
that's how much I love you guys.
that says a lot. So.
All right. See you, man. All right, man.
Looky there.
Look, there we are. Good episode, educational, and it's always good to talk with Jameson. So
yeah, he's got a lot of good stuff in the hopper for this year. He's going to be on some awesome trips. So
absolutely. And let's go ahead and talk about the next one. Let's give him a little taste of what we've got coming up on April 5th. Tell the people who we got.
Yeah, Mr. The social media world knows them as Yeti and YOLO. So it started out as just kind of their rig names for their Jeeps and turned into be their nicknames, and that's kind of what they're known as now, as Yeti and YOLO, the adventure partners. So he's a fabrication genius. The dude, I mean, custom Jeep builds, travel, camping trailers. He's a great camp chef. He's learning some old skills now, making knives. They're working with Brownells on the firearms side. They're doing so many different things. And they live a truly adventurous lifestyle. I mean, they live in a little shop that he's got out there in Iowa now, ever since they started working with Brownells. So before that, they were on the road for almost 2 years straight, just living out of their Jeeps and camping in rooftop tents and, living remote. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy conversation with them, and really interesting and eye-opening, I think, to kind of hear some of their stories and where they've been and what they've done.
Absolutely. That's why we are the Orion podcast, the cooler podcast, telling even cooler stories. Well, that's tonight, man.
Yeah, so another good one.
We will see you guys again April 5th, right here, same place, same time on the Orion podcast. Thanks for watching. We love you.